Hey, I'm George Ruggiero.
And I'm John Finnegan.
And this is the G and Finn Show, giving you up-to-date info on Ole Miss sports and more from around the country.
Catch us Mondays at noon and Fridays at 6 on 92.1 FM, Rebel Radio.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the G and Finn Show here on 92.1 FM Rebel Radio. My name is George Ruggiero.
And I'm John Finnegan.
And, I think we just need to get right into it. Ole Miss football this past weekend. For once, we get a win. It's been a while since we've been able to say that. But Ole Miss just crushed New Mexico State 41-3. I know you guys touched on it last week. We paid them some money to come in here and get beat pretty much. They're an independent school right now, aren't they?
Yeah, they're one of the few FBS independents.
So, again, we just brought them in, and we beat them, I think, as expected. The line was really big, but that was nothing new. This brings New Mexico State to 0-9, I think it is.
Yep.
They're just not a good football program right now or a good football team. Or are they the perfect football program? I mean, look at who all they've played. Think about the amount of money they've probably brought in for that program.
Well, I mean, even the losses you're seeing, none of them are, well, not all of them are exceptional schools. I mean, Alabama, Washington State, and Ole Miss, probably the three big-time schools they've played this year. But you look at some of their other losses. They played Liberty. They're going to play Liberty again. Sometimes with independent, you got to play a team more than once, just the way scheduling works for a team like New Mexico State. They're one of two wins that University of New Mexico has all season. Not a big program either. So, yeah, they got paid a pretty good amount of money, but they're just getting beat soundly by teams that aren't paying them for the privilege, too.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Let's just start with the good, I think, for this Ole Miss game. First off, the defense played exceptionally well. Again, I'm still very pleased with this defense. New Mexico State only put up 193 total yards and 3 points. They didn't create any turnovers, but the New Mexico State offense just was ineffective. They really couldn't get anything done, and their quarterback was just constantly under pressure for this game.
And, it was, when they talk about, defensive efficiency, this is the kind of game they talk about. Not letting them get first downs on obvious passing downs, making sure you adjust to it. I think it was just well-played defense all around. You don't need to create turnovers when you're not letting them get on your side of the field. Turnovers will change the momentum of a game, but we didn't need any of those to be soundly ahead of them in that regard.
Now, for the good on offense, the run game was just awesome. It was incredible. They put up over 440 yards. Our run game put up all 5 of Ole Miss's touchdowns. John Rice ran for 177 and 2. Snoop ran for another 100+ and 2, and Ely himself had a touchdown.
And that's something we expected, not necessarily, well, a little less coming into the season, but strong young running back room, and now a quarterback who predominantly runs with the football, and going up against a team that's 129th in run defense, S&P. So I think we should have expected a performance like that, but beyond that, I mean, that's the good. The defense played they did what we needed to. We shut down a very poor offense, and the run game played to the strengths of our team and the weaknesses of theirs, but I don't know. There's only so much you can take from positives on us beating up on what's effectively a JUCO team.
Yeah, more or less. I hate to say that about any collegiate level team, comparing them to what would be mostly considered a lesser team, but realistically, this was not a challenge. This wasn't meant to be a challenge. This was meant for Ole Miss to at least have a win on their schedule. And on that note, even though the offense looked great on paper, there is still something that I'm not a fan of, and it's really bugging me and getting to me. It's just this utter lack of balance and lack of, really any change or any adjustment made by the offensive staff. And mostly I'm talking about Rich Rodriguez.
And look, he practically invented the spread offense, but it's been years since that happened, and I feel like he had his ideas and he stuck with them. At one point, they were the cutting edge of college football's offensive minds. Not so much anymore. I don't want to... What worries me the most about this game isn't that we ran 75% of the time.
76.
While controlling the ball, running over more than 3 every 4 downs. But We were controlling the ball. We were up by a lot the entire game. We knew our run game was going to gash them. So I don't have too much of a problem with it just for this game. But what worries me more about this game, because you can only take a limited amount from a game like this, where it's just a blowout that is expected.
Yeah, of course.
For me, it's kind of what it reveals as the priorities of this program. And for me, that's their usage of Matt Corral.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. That was that is one of my main takeaways. It's with this whole complete lack of balance for this team in general offensively. This is a not a test. Well, in a way, this is a test for this offensive coaching staff. This should have been a get right game. You always have those games in a season where you've had a tough stretch of things going. You've got an easier game, in your schedule, and you need to use that to get right. You need to get that. You need to get back into gear with that, and this should have been that time. This is that opportunity. This should have been the game where Ole Miss's passing offense shines, but it didn't. Not at all. Matt Corral, like you said, specifically for Matt Corral. Matt Corral had 2 drives. 2 drives for this offense, and by the time he even touched the field, Ole Miss was winning 38-3. That was in the beginning of the 4th quarter. He was in there for 2 drives, threw 2 passes, completed both of them. But that's ridiculous. He's supposed to be your guy to throw the ball with. If you're doing this whole 2-quarterback weird scheme thing, and we saw it against Mizzou, we saw it against A&M, Corral was supposed to be the guy to throw the ball. And they just didn't do that. Ole Miss only threw the ball 19 times total. To me, that's just ridiculous, especially with the quality of the receivers that we have.
And that's 19 times on 80 plays from scrimmage.
Yeah, it's not like it's 19 out of 70 or
we
60.
ran 80 plays from scrimmage in this game. 61 of them were on the ground. That's terrifying.
That's got to be some sort of record almost, right? Like unless you're well, I would say that's the most in college football, but then you've got like Navy and stuff like that.
Well,
but besides the point.
A funny coincidence, the 61 run plays we had last game, that's the same number of completions Plumlee has this season on 120 attempts. So completing 50.8% of his passes on 120 attempts, 61 completions, 5.5 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, both boneheaded.
And look, for me, none of this is a true indictment on John Rice, because I think he has the ability to throw the ball. I really do. I mean, he showed us in the last drive of the Auburn game. He can throw the ball to receivers under pressure. He showed even in this game. He completed 11 of 17 passes. That's fine. Like, that's serviceable.
Yeah, and against non-conference opponents, he's completing 75% of his passes.
Exactly. Like, I think he has the ability. The scheme just isn't in place. And I know good and well our receivers are capable enough. I mean, we saw huge pickups in this game by guys like Pellerin, had one where it was just short of the end zone for a touchdown there. But, that was a big pickup, a great catch. Elijah Moore, sure, he had a couple drop passes, but once he gets the ball in his hands, he just does so much with it.
What concerns me about Plumlee isn't, I mean, you can look at the stats and see that they're worrisome, and that's one of the things that worries me. But the most illuminating part of it for me is he doesn't have a completion through the air of more than 20 yards. Only a couple above 15 yards through the air. So our guys can make it work on the ground. There's a lot of playmakers on this team who you get the ball to them in space, but I don't believe in his ability to push it down the field, at least not yet.
Yeah, and thing is, if there was a quarterback in this room that I would have expected to, look at how they play, look at their, physical abilities, and look at them and say, this guy can move the ball downfield through the air, this guy can throw the ball, that would be our third stringer, Kincaid Dent. Well, apart from Corral, I still have a lot of hope for Corral's arm. But Kincaid Dent, he's got an absolute cannon of an arm. I mean, he's making 30, 40, 50-yard passes look easy. He was in there for the last drive of this game. Did not throw a single pass. I get it. You don't want to run up the score, whatever.
Well, I don't have too much of
a point.
Yeah, I don't have too much of a problem with getting him in the game and only running it, but I think, pick one. You've got the breathing room. You can let the kid make a stupid play. That's when you want to get those ironed out, when it's a game that you've already won. It effectively doesn't matter. We'd rather get him comfortable behind the line in a game situation at home. But what I worry about, at least with how this game went, is if you're Corral, do you think about transferring at this point? It looks like Rich Rod has decided he's not his guy.
I think if you're Corral, you have to. If he's 100% serious, which he is, you have to consider transferring. You have to look at the way that this team is put together right now, and you can't expect, as much as I wish they would, or at least consider it, you can't expect them to fire Rich Rod after just one season, after being banned from bowl games for however long. Ole Miss is looking for stability right now, and firing a coordinator or a head coach after just a couple years or even just 1 year on the job, that's not consistency. That's not what they're looking to do. If I'm Corral, you have to consider transferring. You have to look at your options and look at what teams around the country are going to be in need of a quarterback.
And you know what? Props to Matt Corral. He's been nothing but mature. He's been a real team player this year. I mean, the relationship it looks like him and Plumlee have is exceptional. You can't expect that level of maturity from a lot of college sophomores. But if I'm Corral, I start worrying that the future of this program for the next couple of years doesn't include me to the degree that I want to be included in this program. I think he's got the talent to be a starting quarterback in a good P5 school. I think he has the talent to be the quarterback of Ole Miss. That's my opinion. I'm not the offensive coordinator. I'm not Matt Luke. But, props to him so far. He's performed relatively well when he's been in the game and, says a lot about his character, the way he's handled it. But beyond that, on this game, you got anything else? I don't have too much more to take away from it.
I don't have anything else. The last thing I can really say on this one is that, like I started this whole conversation with, this needed to be a get-right game for this passing offense before Ole Miss has arguably their biggest test of the year with LSU coming to town. And I mean, LSU's performance this weekend, I think, was really telling of what they have the ability to do to any team in the country, especially Ole Miss.
And on the topic of LSU's performance this weekend,
let's get into it.
46-41 over Alabama at Bryant-Denny. Alabama's first loss at Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa since Quincy Adebojo caught a pass that bounced off a helmet from Chad Kelly.
Yeah, it's been... That's 4 years now, isn't it? Just about.
Yeah.
It was 2015, I think.
Ole Miss seniors were in high school the last time Alabama lost at home.
Yeah. And it took arguably one of the most dominant performances I've seen in college football from a quarterback and an offense just in general. And,
yeah, so players of the game for me, Joe Burrow. My goodness. 31 of 39, 400 yards, 3 TDs, no turnovers. And then LSU kept it moving on the ground. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 20 carries, averaging 5 per carry, over 100 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground. And then Jamar Chase had 6 receptions, 140 yards on 6 receptions, and a touchdown. That's unreal.
Yeah, from LSU, apart from those 3, because those 3 truly were the standouts of the game. First off, just because I didn't know that he played there, and I was really intrigued by it. Did you see that Thaddeus Moss is playing for LSU now? Yeah, that's the
I had no idea.
Moss son. That's Randy Moss's kid.
That's incredible. I had no idea.
And he mossed on someone late in that game that it was just
just by definition,
awesome.
anything he does is mossing someone.
He has to. But for Alabama,
Najee Harris still looked very, very good.
Devonta Smith, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I know the talk's been Jerry Jeudy and Ruggs, mostly because those 2 are likely going to go in the draft this year. But Devonta Smith, come on.
And Harrison Smith, if you're an Ole Miss fan, those are the 2 guys who ate us up the most when we played. It wasn't Jerry Jeudy in that game. He got,
it was-
I don't want to
it
say
was-
shut down, but they had other options when they played us.
Well, I mean, look at Devonta Smith as an option for this game. 7 catches, 213 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
That's
that's
incredible.
a heck of a game.
He's supposed
so
to be
you know
their
what?
third stringer.
This year, a lot of people thought it felt different for LSU versus Alabama. This year was different. Went in, knocked off Alabama at home. LSU up to number 1 in the country in the AP poll, and the playoff really ought to say the same thing. That poll doesn't come out till tomorrow, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Beyond this game, though, a couple other fun games. We talked about Minnesota, Penn State. Number 17, Minnesota, took down number 4, Nittany Lions. 31-26, rushed the field. That was
Yeah.
a fun game.
I don't know what you guys called, on Friday for that game.
I predicted LSU and Minnesota.
Wow. I mean, I took LSU, of course. I would have done that any
Let's
day
go
of the
Golden
week.
Gophers.
Go Gophers. Yeah, this honestly did seem like a classic kind of trap game for Penn State. In Minnesota, a team that hasn't lost yet. I mean, both of these teams, their passing attacks were on display. Both quarterbacks put up more than 300 passing yards and a touchdown through the air. Just the difference maker was the turnovers. Penn State's quarterback threw 3 interceptions, one in the end zone to ice
end the
game.
game. Yeah.
To end it for Minnesota.
And look, their momentum changing, but Penn State was driving.
Yeah,
Penn State had a very, very real chance at winning that game, but
that last
poor
throw was
decision making in the end zone
crusher.
did it. So Minnesota now up to 7 in the country in the AP poll. Penn State down to about 10 or 11, depending whose rankings you're looking at. But all of a sudden, Minnesota is undefeated, and they've got a real quality win against the number 4 team in the country in Penn State. And a little more Big Ten, another ranked-on-ranked matchup. Wisconsin took down Iowa 24-22. That was a Big Ten game.
That was a very Big Ten game. That was a very Big Ten game.
And somewhat similar score to Minnesota Penn State, but it definitely felt like a Big Ten game, and Wisconsin came away with it. A lot of people felt they were a bit overrated heading into the season. They're a good team.
I think they're fine.
They're not beating the brakes off
No.
anybody, but they're a good team. Any other games you caught this weekend?
Yeah, there were a couple other upsets that I saw in college football. Unranked Texas went in and beat. Well, it was in Texas, but they went out, beat number 16 Kansas State 27-24. That knocks Kansas State. They were only that high over that quality win over Oklahoma.
Which is a great win.
Fantastic win. But dropping that to Texas puts them out of the top 25. Texas up, and one other big upset is again unranked Virginia Tech beating number 19 Wake Forest 36-17. Virginia Tech, of course, not getting anywhere near that top 25, but Wake Forest dropping out of the top 25.
And Wake Forest, unfortunately, no longer undefeated, but boy, was that a fun few weeks while it lasted.
Oh yeah.
So in the AP poll, LSU's up to number 1. Playoff poll is the one that really matters at this point in the season. We won't be able to talk about that today. It comes out on noon or at noon on Tuesdays. Indiana now ranked, which means there is a new champion of longest streak without appearing on the AP poll. Guess which Power 5 school has gone the longest without being ranked
The longest
on the
without
AP?
being ranked from AP. I can't think of any.
Give you a hint. It's Big Ten, and it's no longer Indiana.
Let me pull up the Big Ten then. Well, you can just give it to me. Who is it?
Purdue Boilermakers.
Is it Purdue?
Haven't been ranked
Has it
since
been that long?
Since 2007, ranked number 24, week 4, after a good win over a solid Notre Dame team.
Wow.
Wound up going 5-7 that season, and dropped out of the rankings after 1
Wow.
week. Before that, it was when Drew Brees was there.
Yeah, that's what I
In,
was thinking.
like, 2000.
That
But
was,
they were briefly ranked in 07. So I think that's
Wow.
all I've got on college football for today. What about you?
Yeah, that's all I've got. We'll be right back after a short commercial break.
And welcome back to the G and Finn Show on Rebel Radio. I think we're going to get right into it with our Sunday NFL. George, what games did you catch? What was probably your favorite of yesterday?
So, oddly enough, I caught a good bit of the Browns and Bills game, and that one got tight. That was a good game to watch. Browns ended up taking that by 3, 19-6, but the Bills were leading like pretty late into that game.
Yeah, and
Did you catch any of that?
No, I didn't catch much of it. I haven't been watching too much Bills and Browns. Bills kind of quietly were 6-2 going into this game now, 6-3, and Browns snap a 4-game losing streak. I mean, skidding away from they got off to a 3-2 start, not awful, or a 2-2 start, not bad. But yeah, 4 in a row. Finally snapped that. Good defensive game. Not a lot of scoring, but if you're a Browns or Bills fan, you're used to not a lot of scoring, at least when
true.
you're on offense. Probably my favorite game of the day, pretty early, Chiefs and Titans.
Yeah, that was a great one.
And Mahomes played fine. He didn't do anything crazy, but the ending of that game was kind of the most exciting part. I mean, they were even at 13 going into half. Chiefs pulled up to 32 to, I'm sorry, it was 22-20 heading into the fourth. Down a field goal. End of the game.
Yeah.
You catch that play?
Yeah, I did. There's a little bit of controversy about it. A lot of people. So what happened? It's a long field goal for Kansas City, but they have a great kicker. You expect him to make that kick, but it gets blocked, and a lot of people look to the left edge, and they think, oh, the defensive back that jumped the line was offside.
Yeah, it was almost he was off the line way too fast for it to feel like he was going at the right time.
But I mean, if you slow it down and if you watch the center and that defensive back, it's simultaneous. He's onside. He just makes such a great play, and they asked him later about it after the game, and he just said that he heard the cadence. He was hearing the same cadence the entire game from kicks, and he just read it and jumped it. And
the Chiefs had kicked a couple field goals earlier in the game, 3 in the third quarter.
so that's the thing. He had plenty of time and plenty of knowledge about what they were going to do and how they were going to play that.
So he just read it, timed it perfectly, and won the game for the Titans. Likely would have gone to overtime if that kick gets off. One game that, surprising, Dolphins notched their second win in a row over the Colts, led by Brian Hoyer. Ole Miss guy Chad Kelly activated to the active 53-man roster.
That was for the Colts, right?
For the Colts, Hoyer threw 3 interceptions. Kelly stayed on the bench. Dolphins took it away from the Colts 16-12. Colts did not score until the third quarter.
I think there was one just huge disappointment of a game earlier in the day. Well, it might have been at the same time, but earlier in the day, the Falcons taking down the Saints.
And soundly.
It wasn't like it was a tight game at all. It was 26-9. New Orleans did not score a single touchdown, whereas Matty Ryan threw for 2. You'd never expect a game like that to happen. Sure, it's a divisional game, so there's always going to be...
It's always going to be closer than you'd expect.
But still, just the way that how dysfunctional this Falcons team has been all season, you never expect this game.
And you know what? Teddy Bridgewater better than Drew Brees' record so far this season.
Come on,
but
come on.
Hey, I'm always gonna root for Teddy and Drew.
Yeah,
now.
of course.
And one interesting thing to come out of that game, the Falcons were very quietly 1-7. They got their one win until this week pretty early, so they weren't lumped in with all the rest of the bottom feeders this year: the Redskins, Bengals, Jets, and Dolphins. Now the Giants, kind of, but they were quietly 1-7. Now 2-7. This is the only away win this year, obviously. But one interesting thing to come out of the game is Drew Brees and Matt Ryan now hold the record for most quarterback-on-quarterback matchups between two players.
Oh wow!
So
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's rare you get two very long tenured solid quarterbacks. One solid quarterback and one exceptional quarterback. I'm sure you know who's who.
Yeah.
It's rare that you have that in a division for such a long time.
That isn't common.
When was Matt Ryan drafted? Because I know Brees was 2001.
Yeah, let me give that quick.
But something around there. And, a lot of good games on yesterday. Buccaneers took it from the Cardinals, tied going into the fourth quarter, won 30-27. Kyler Murray looked good.
Wow.
Bucks had lost 4 straight going into this game as well. And Jets took down the Giants. They're roommates in MetLife Stadium. One thing that was crazy from that game, 2 standout performances by Jets safety Jamal Adams, and who was the tight end on the Giants? Was it Slayton?
Yeah, I don't know if he's a tight end though. He might be a receiver.
He's either a tight end or a real big wide receiver.
Yeah, it's
I know his number
Darius
was
Slayton.
Yeah, his number was in the 80s, which made me think he was technically a tight end just based on where he was lining up.
Yeah, he had 10 catches, 121 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, so he had a day. So did Jet safety Jamal Adams, who's Jersey Hyman right now, because we're both fans.
No,
But-
Slayton's a wideout.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's
Well,
classified as a wideout.
That's a big man right there.
He's 6'1", almost 200. He is a big dude.
Yeah, so-
and just a quick callback to what you were talking about earlier. Matt Ryan was drafted in 2008.
Wasn't that late? I didn't
Yeah,
realize.
he's 34 though.
But still, 11 seasons in the same division with two quarterbacks who haven't had too
And-
bad luck
Exactly,
injury-wise,
yeah.
at least until lately with Drew. But still, that's always fun when you kind of know who you're going up against. Always going to be an interesting game. And so, yeah, Jets and Giants now 2-7 and 2-8 respectively. Things aren't great in MetLife Stadium for those teams.
No, they are not.
Rams-Steelers, defensive game. I think Steelers' defense outshined the Rams just a little bit, but 17-12 victory for the Steelers.
I know I talked about this earlier in the season. When are we going to talk about how bad Jared Goff really is?
He's not good, is he?
He's not. Thing
And
is,
McVay isn't a world breaker either this season.
no, it's. I
felt-
feel like people are adjusting to what he did last season with that team and with that offense, and it's just shutting them down. Goff threw just under 50% or just about 50%, 243 and 2 picks. That's not good. That's bad.
And I mean, 2 of the Rams' 12 points came on a defensive play in the fourth quarter. It got a safety late. But I think it felt like every offseason hire made was, hey, we want a young offensive guy who's met Sean McVay once. Like, his coffee boy, it felt like, was even getting head coaching gigs.
Yeah.
I think they've come back to earth a little bit on that.
Definitely.
And then Sunday night game, pretty good too. Vikings took down the Cowboys at AT&T, 28-24. That was a pretty good Sunday night game. I was a fan of it.
Dalvin Cook.
Oh my God.
Dalvin Cook. Just because of Dalvin Cook's injury problems before this season, I feel like he was vastly underrated. But he is showing out this year. To me, he's been the best running back in the NFL this year so far. I don't think it's been close.
I think it's been close. Christian
Sure,
McCaffrey.
oh well, yeah, CMC, but a lot of the times, you know, after the injury to Cam, you know, CMC has been kind of just a key cog because Kyle Allen's been really good.
Yeah, he's
whereas
been not bad at all.
honestly, at this point, is Kyle Allen better than Kirk?
All right, slow your roll a little bit on that, but he's not nearly as overpaid at the very
Okay,
least.
exactly. There is that, but still,
Hey, if you're the Vikings, you're paying $83 million to Kirk Cousins.
I don't know. He did have a good jump pass to Rudolph in the back of the
Yeah,
end
and
zone.
you know what?
That was
He's
a great
had a good
catch.
He's had a very good couple games in a row, but yeah, that was an exceptional catch. Just perfect toe tap. And he had another on the sideline on that same drive that didn't get the love it deserved because he did the same thing on a touchdown.
I mean, did you see that toe tap for a touchdown by Amari Cooper though?
Oh my
Oh
goodness.
my!
Unreal.
Come on, like that's weird. Like Pro Bowl level. Like he was Michael Jackson on that play pretty much.
Watching it live, I was like, all right, that's not a catch. Like, that's fine. The DBs didn't even think it was, or the guy on him didn't even think it was close enough to warrant doing his, that's not a catch, kind of just showing off. But, yeah, that was an
you
exceptional
freeze frame
play.
it. What a catch. What a grab.
Yeah, fantastic catch. And I'm excited for the Monday night game. 7:15 kickoff at Levi's Stadium. Seahawks travel to take on the undefeated 49ers.
This is going to be a tough one because Russell Wilson has been crushing it this year.
Oh, yeah.
But, this 49ers defense is only giving up like 12 points a game.
Yeah, and the line's closed. It's San Francisco by 6 at home.
That is tight.
But,
That's tight.
Seahawks are playing great. 49ers defense has been playing exceptionally well. I don't know how I could pick this game, but I think it's going to be one of the best Monday night games we've had all season. I've been excited for this
It might
matchup for
actually
weeks.
be the best Monday night game we've had this season because there have been some Monday night games this year that have been just tragic.
Yeah, and the Thursday night game last week wasn't half bad, so
Surprisingly.
as far as primetime goes, I'm counting myself as lucky.
Yeah.
If you had to pick this game,
If I had to pick this game, honestly, I'd go with the Niners. You know, just the way that this defense has been playing. And I mean, one of Seattle's starting guards is questionable. Yeah, no, I would have to go with the Niners just on the back of that defense.
yeah, I think, well, the line's 6. I think, I don't know, man. I feel good about the Seahawks this week. I mean, they're 7-2. They haven't lost an away game yet this season.
True.
And their offense has a lot working for them right now. I mean, Russ is playing dangerously. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf have been fantastic for the Seahawks. He's got his weapons. If this is going to be a heck of a test for both teams, because I think whichever one comes out on top, people are going to start talking about them as a lock sooner rather than later.
No doubt. I really think that whoever wins this game, well, let me rephrase that because that's not true. Whoever wins the matchup between these two teams, because they still have to play again in Seattle. They have not played this season yet, will win that division. Because I don't see the Niners' tests getting any easier. The Niners still have a pretty tough schedule, going through, whereas the Seahawks, it's kind of
it lightens
plateaued
up just a bit.
Yeah, I'd say it's plateaued a bit. It's they've gone through the rough part of the season. It's going to start evening out, or maybe even getting a little bit easier for them.
Yeah, and to be fair, the Niners have the fewest points against them in the NFL, or second fewest points against them, 102 points against them.
Who is fewer points against?
Patriots with 98,
Oh, yeah,
very
sure.
close.
They
But
didn't play this week. I kind of
look,
forgot.
we're past midseason. They've won every game so far. It's going to get a little tougher, but I'm excited to see how this game goes. I'm really psyched for this Monday night game. And, of course, we'll get to see our boy DK eat.
Oh, yeah. Well, hopefully. We'll see. We will see. So, with that, we're going to... Do you have anything else with the NFL?
That's
I don't think I do.
I think that's all I've got, but I'm excited for this game tonight.
All right, we're going to take just another quick short break, and when we come back, we will have some basketball talk for everybody. Welcome back to the G and Finn Show. We just have a couple minutes left here on the air. Let's go with some basketball. Do you want to start with NBA or college? I'll leave it up to you.
I think let's talk about the Ole Miss game.
All right, works for me. Friday night, Ole Miss took on, I think that was Arkansas State. Yeah, Arkansas State at home. Won that game 71-43 in just an overall dominant performance. It was incredible to watch.
It's what you like to see. Beginning of the season, non-conference, that's when teams rack up wins that they don't get talked about, but they look good. Just seeing them next to your name. No one's going to say, oh, that was a great win for them over Arkansas State, but maybe it's the difference between a 23 and a 22-win team at the end of the year. But I liked what I saw. Forced 23 turnovers. Had 15 ourselves, but really good margin there. I mean, we soundly beat an opponent we should have. I really liked what I saw, especially, though, from Devontae Shuler.
Oh, Shuler was playing like a man possessed. He had 20 points. His field goal percentage was 60+.
Yeah, 7 for 11.
He was great. He was just so disruptive on both ends of the court. Disruptive on the offensive end, just making space for himself, making space for other players to get their shots off. And then on the defensive end, which you don't expect Shuler to be, a defensive presence for you, but he was just all over the ball. He was tracking really well. I mean, he really looks and feels as if he's grown from last season.
And he definitely does. And what's really great about Kermit Davis's defensive scheme is it gives guys like Shuler the opportunity to get involved on defense, where at a lot of schools, that archetype of player wouldn't have the opportunity to get involved. But on defense, one of the standout players for me, Buffin. He had 7 defensive rebounds.
Yeah,
a couple on
KJ
offense,
Buffin
too.
Played great. He had a great game. He was just all over the rim. It was between him. He was standout for me. But I also really liked the look out of transfer player. Where is it? It's Kadeem C. Excuse me. Transfer student, transfer junior, picked up during this offseason. He's a big forward / center. He seems to be playing the same role that Olenijek played here before he decided to head on out. But C looked really good, really comfortable in the scheme, and then late in the game, he decided to add some offense to his game.
Yeah, I mean, he shot 50%. He made 3 of his 6 tries, both his free throws, couple rebounds on offense. He had as many offensive rebounds as anyone on the team, and tacked on an assist and a steal as well. So not a bad game for him.
Certainly not a bad debut.
No, absolutely not. And I'm excited to see how he fills that big position. Only player I'm a little worried about, and I know he's a sophomore. He's got plenty of time to develop. Luis Rodriguez, I think, needs a couple games to get going. Only had 5 points in the game. Shot 8 from 2-point range, missed all 3 3-pointers, but he's got time to develop. I mean, guard, sophomore, he'll be just fine, but I'd like to see him get going on offense, just like Breon Tyree didn't have a great game either.
No, I agree with you with that on Rodriguez, but I think Tyree had. I feel like the numbers don't show how solid of a game he actually had. The senior guard, he's pretty much the leader of this team at this point. He played 25 minutes in that game. Sure, he didn't have all the numbers. He only put up 6 points. He was 22% from the field, but he had 4 assists and 2 boards from what a lot of people would call an undersized player.
Yeah, so, definitely. I mean, it's Breon Tyree. I think we know what we have in him from seeing how he played last season, so I expect him to get better shooting, but his defensive play and his play in a complementary role on offense has been pretty good so far from what we've seen.
Yeah, I don't think there's much else to really talk about or to preview for tomorrow night's game. Ole Miss is playing Norfolk State at the Pavilion. I don't think there's much really to talk about from Norfolk State.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, just want to keep building that team chemistry. Excited to see these guys develop. Want to see the younger guys getting some minutes, but I'm really excited about this season. I'm glad to be a part of Club Red. I think it's going to be a great one.
It should be a great season. There's some definite changes from last year that should make this team just that much better.
The closer we get to what Kermit Davis has envisioned for this program, the better we're going to do. Anything else in college basketball that's caught your eye recently?
Yeah, the whole thing with Memphis and the NCAA.
Yeah, and
with Wiseman.
And we got into it a bit on Friday. Not a ton more has come out about the situation, but it's a weird situation. The NCAA definitely decided to bring the hammer on Friday, but I'm sure we'll have more info as that develops. But I don't know. For now, it's just a weird situation.
And for now, there's really not much we can say, seeing as not all the information is out yet. We can't definitively say one thing over the other until we get some more info out of it.
Yeah, but, I mean, not college basketball, but a NBA rebel right now. Terrence Davis on the Raptors, he got 17 minutes of playtime, but
wow,
13 points, 4 rebounds on defense, 1 on offenses too, 3 assists. He had a dagger 3 in the corner at the end of the game, completely unguarded, but nailed it. So it's been a lot of fun to watch. I'm not a Raptors fan, I'm not a Lakers fan, but it was fun to see TD help pull off an upset against a really good Lakers team. So that was exciting.
Yeah, and getting into the NBA, we just have a couple changes throughout the season. We're not going to talk about it all too much. Just some surprises coming out. The Nuggets are playing extremely well. They're tied for top of the West. The Celtics just rattled off 7 straight. They're still on that winning streak. I think one of the biggest surprises, but isn't as surprising now that Steph Curry isn't healthy, but the Golden State Warriors are currently tied with the New York Knicks for the worst record in the NBA. Both those teams are 2-8.
That's brutal.
That's brutal. That's
a lot. Sports can change year to year, but I don't think any more so than the NBA. And I think last thing we've got for today, some more exciting news for Ole Miss basketball. Best recruit in Ole Miss basketball history.
Oh, I forgot that was some breaking news from today.
Yeah,
Matthew see that in
Merrill,
the DM, right?
Yeah, 6'4", 190-pound shooting guard, top 50 recruit, number 45 in the country, number 9 shooting guard in his class.
Nice.
It's a good time. I mean, one of our top targets, Jamin Brayfield, recently committed to Duke, but yeah. So Merle,
it's still great to get a top recruit like that.
And Memphis guy who wound up at IMG Academy. You might remember that's where we had Shea Patterson through, but I'm excited to see this guy play. He'll join Sean Robinson next year and try to elevate this program.
No doubt.
So I think that's all I've got for today. What about you, George?
That's all I've got. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Stay tuned here on 92.1 for
the VK Way with Finch and Caleb Woodson.
Yeah, so stay tuned here. I've been George Agiro.
And I've been John Finnegan.
And this has been the G and Finch Show. Catch us back here Friday night at 6 p.m.